screws that mount your microinverter is where your ground transfers to your frame. So these are all completely grounded. No more weaves, no more bugs in the modules, which is a headache to install, at least to my guys. As far as your parts that you would need besides your module, your cable clips, there's a couple of different brands depending on which one you have. They do have some metal ones. I pulled them off this one. I'll show you all the hands-on. On the Generation 2 or the P250s, they'll come with some plastic cable-to-cable clips and then a 90-degree clip to put on the frame. Once those are installed, no more cable management. It's done. You plug them in, go to the next module. All your wires will be held up off the roof, ready to go. Have transition cables to go from your module and your junction box on the roof, of course. Male or female, depending on which way you set it up, which we'll go over in just a few minutes. And extension cables. Yeah, female to female, male to male, and male to female. And then, of course, the end caps for your end of your row of modules to cap off the section not being used, either the female or the male. So if you're looking at the front of the module, the male connector is always on the left of the module. It's just long enough to reach to your next modules, as you can see in both these sets. They're long enough to connect your modules and still have a little bit of a drip loop and a little slack, so that there's thermal expansion. You don't get tension on your connectors or wire. Yes, sir.
Can you set the systems up so they don't put their hand landscape?
You can. There's a little, you'll need some extra extension cables for doing landscape. You'll be able to plug four together, and then you have to have an extension cable for each of the next unit. But yes, you can do them either way. You can put 17 of the Gen 1 modules on a 20 amp branch circuit, or 16 of the Generation 2 modules on a 20 amp circuit. When you're laying out your array for the parts you need, if your transition box is on the left of your array, then you'll need a female transition cable to go into the box, to plug into the male. You'll need a male end cap to the end of your row. And if you have more than a 2-inch gap, if you're trying to span on either side of the set stack coming through the roof or anything, you will need an extension cable to go in between them. They come in two different sizes now, 5 and 10 foot. So everything's plug in, no roof wiring except for the transition cable into your junction box. You have 2 rows. Your transition box is on the right side. You'll need a male transition cable. And like before, if it's on the left side of your array, you would need a female transition cable. If it's on the right, you'll need a female to female extension to get from row to row of male end cap, and vice versa if your junction box is on the left side of the array. If you've got multiple routes that you're splitting up, then you use transition cables, or I'd use a transition cable into a junction box and then conduit it in between the 2 junction boxes to join. Just say I've got 10 over here and 5 on this roof plate. I'd set 2 junction boxes, conduit in between it, and then my transition cables going into the junction boxes. Minimal parts, that's what I love. Can't stand having to stop my trucks with 100 different parts. 5 installation steps to success. You may find a couple more steps, so these are the basic steps. 1, prep the AC module for roof mounting. Install your AC branch circuit and transition cable. Mount and connect your modules together. Install your data logger and commission your system. So the first thing you do, as with any module, you pull it out of the box and inspect it. With these, a guy on the ground, pull it out of the box, inspect it, and attach the clips, which we'll do in the back when we do our hands-on. It's ready to go on the roof. Once the installers on the roof plug them together, they are done. No more cable management. You're going to attach your transition cable to your junction box first in a lot of cases, because that's going to be strapped up under the array. Unlike with string inverter, that's usually the last thing we do is plug in our wires so we don't send voltage down. We can wire into the junction box, electrician or your electrician, how we're doing, and run all the wires down to the breaker. Just make sure the breaker's off. Of course, you want to use, make sure your transition box is secure using anti-corrosion techniques, especially if it's outdoors, which most don't. Then you're going to connect your AC module branch circuit conductors to a double pole single throw 20 amp breaker. If you've got your string loaded up. Of course, if you're not using full 16 modules, that might be a 15 amp breaker. But typically, if you're loading up your whole string, it will be a 20 amp breaker. Some advantages, it's just an AC branch circuit coming down to the roof, 240 volt to a 2-pole 20 amp breaker. Use weatherproof connectors inside any transition box, typical PV wiring techniques. I try not to use standard wire nuts, it's not against code, but if you want something to last 50 years on the roof and it's outside, I use the best connectors I can get. Your branch circuits are no different than any other residential branch circuit coming down. This particular picture has 6 branch circuits coming from the roof and an aggregation panel or just a little 240 volt panel. AC modules, special use cables are terminated in the transition box on the roof and then house wiring down to it, depending on your local codes. A lot of areas, you just Romex, we're using the Solarbridge box, Romex through the attic, down to your AC disconnect in your electrical panel. My particular area, I have to run top of it, which I've been doing. Your module branch circuit wires should be sized, of course, for your ampacity, how many modules you put up, and the voltage drop, how long your wires are. And of course, routed and protected according to NEC. Third step, bring in the first module to the roof, mount it on the support rack. Then you mount it and connect them